Hari Om. Today we are on the first mantra of the second section of chapter 3. With this section, the Upanishad ends. So we will be completing, there are 11 mantras on this, and this is the last portion of the Upanishads. Today, the first mantra of the section 2 of chapter 3 reads like this. Sa Vedaitat Paramam Brahmadhama Yatra Vishwam Nihidam Bhadi Shubhram Upasate Purusham Ye Akama Te Shukramedadadi Vartandi Dhira. Now we will examine the brief meaning of this. This mantra means or says that a self-realized person clearly understands that the entire world rests in Brahman. The whole world is in Brahman. And seekers of discrimination who have no worldly desires and are devoted to such realized souls, the Shruti says, they will go beyond all chances of rebirth. This is the rough meaning of the stanza, mantra. Now let us examine in detail. If you remember, in the previous section, the Guru stated almost categorically that all those who worship a respectable master of Atma Sakshatkara can come to gain through his grace all their material desires. And that is the reason why perhaps we have in our Puranas, where Vyasa, the great sage, had installed a self-realized soul, Shukracharya himself, as the guru of all Rakshasas. Shukracharya is a realized soul, he is an Atmajnani, the man who attained Atma Sakshatkara, yet he has been appointed as Guru of Rakshasas. Through the required or adequate devotion to Shukracharya, the master, and the self-effort of different Rakshasas in different periods of time, they come to get various types of boons as per their desire, after the tapas, of course, as easily as the electricity gets into the bulb. No Rakshasas, after their devotion to Guru and having performed the tapas in its proper way, no Rakshasa has ever been denied of a boon either from Vishnu or from Brahma. Because they have no choice, they have to grant, that's a law. Now these Rakshasa or Rakshasic forces undertake such severe tapas or austerity with a very definite goal in their mind. And what is that goal? An utter selfish desire of lordship over the world. And they do attain the same, though for a temporary period. But then, the seekers who serve such men of realization with utmost faith and worship them devotedly, without any material agenda or desire, unlike the Rakshasas, and seek only a merger with the reality, an experience with the reality, what would happen to them and what benefit will they accrue? The Rakshasic forces will get their desires granted. But these people who have no desires at all, desirelessness state, what will they get? And without any benefit, no activity is ever performed in this world, even by a fool. Isn't it? Prayojanam avidrishyam. Without a benefit, even a fool, Mudhobi, even a fool will not perform any action. So what do they get? The Shruti is bound to answer this question. And she does it quite satisfactorily too. She says that such sincere and devoted aspirants who surrendered at the feet of their Guru, they will come to accrue a priceless spiritual wealth known as pure Antakarana Shuddhi. And without this basic requirement, in its total purity, one cannot grasp the poignant and subtle message of the scriptures, much less can he be qualified for a flight to immortality through the higher planes of consciousness and meditation. He becomes a qualified aspirant, in full-fledged qualified aspirant for a face-to-face interview with Brahman, the reality. Then Shruti further holds out that such persons devoted to a self-realized master will get out of the welter of birth and death. Not only he will have a definite interview with the reality and experience that reality, but the Shruti also assures that he will be out of the cycle of birth and death. Iha samsare bahu dustare. This dustara samsara, he will be out. He will no more make an entry into this thalldom of samsara. Here, some students of Vedanta, alert in their attention, may raise their eyebrow to raise a doubt. The students have been earlier taught that without gaining the knowledge and experience of self-discovery of the self, its realization in true sense is not at all possible. This has been dinned into their mind, clearly told them, mere knowledge is not enough. Knowing is different, realizing is different. In order to experience Brahman, you have to realize Brahman. No amount of knowledge is enough. But now, the present student, in the presence of the master, is only having a thorough knowledge of the Brahman. He has not yet realized. Yet, he has been promised of liberation. The Shruti promises a state of birthlessness and deathlessness for a seeker who just serves his realized master without really gaining the experience of the self within. How is that possible? This is the doubt. Now, if you analyze, there is no confusion here. The immortality indicated by the Shruti as a bounty to the seeker is to be understood as his final goal or destination. It never meant that immortality is served in a silver plate just by seeing a master of self-realization. He never said that. Through his devoted sacrifice to the master, he gains a stainless and 100% antakarana shuddhi, and almost all the traces of his egocentric vasanas get exhausted, and ere long you shall reach a state of experience of the self. It was the ultimate goal of that has been indicated. It was the ultimate goal that has been indicated. Now this is common in our daily life too. We always refer to certain things as goal, as a goal. Children in elementary class, elementary school, sometimes refuse to go to the school in the morning and hang on to the mother's sari. It's not an uncommon scene. The mother then takes the child aside and tells him what he would become if he went to school. A magistrate, an IAS officer, a police officer, a judge, etc., whom the child has admiration for. Because somebody in the family is a judge, somebody in the family is a police officer. So he says, look at your uncle, look at your father. You will become like that if you go to school. Really, mommy? Yes, really. Now the mother never ever meant that just by going to the class today, he will become a judge tomorrow. No. The goal has been indicated and assured to the boy. In the same way, the Shruti truthfully stated that such seekers without ego and egocentric desires serve the Guru, who himself is a Shrotriyam Brahmanishta, will in due course attain a state of immortality. That is all he said. There is no room for sustaining the confusion. Confusion overruled. Thus, for a seeker, desiring no material pleasures or goal, serving the realized master, the state of immortality is assured and promised. It is to be clearly understood that once you reach the state of self-realization, having necessarily exhausted all egocentric desires, there is no question of your returning to this worldly level of consciousness, albeit they may still be living in this world, kicking around and waiting for the departure call of their physical apparatus. They only possess the sthula sharira, the gross body. And they have already discarded their sukshma sharira, the subtle body, through elimination or catharsis of vasanas, and naturally the karana sharira or the causal body. All the vasanas are exhausted. So where is the causal body? So there is no causal body, there is no subtle body, there is just a frail piece of flesh and blood, which is the physical body. And that is the only link they have with this world. Once that is cut off or cut asunder, asanga shastrena viridhena chitva, they ipso facto merge with the Supreme. Tie a small doll of salt to a thread and dip it in the sea. While dipping, you have a thread and a doll. Once the salt doll gets into the sea and the thread is broken, the doll merges with the ocean, its true home, the abode or dhamam. 15th chapter roars, Yadgatva nanivartande taddhama paramam mama. That is my supreme abode, says Krishna, to which, having come, none returns. The physical activities undertaken by a man of realization do not bind him by karmaphala, as his actions do not gain ground because they are undertaken without ego and egocentric desire. It is like walking on a treadmill. You are just carrying out that exercise only to burn out the residual calories of your vasanas, and since they are performed without ego and egocentric desires, it do not gain ground and you are where you were. Even after walking 10 miles, you are where you are. Nothing adds to you and your residual vasanas get exhausted. When you just work in the world outside without ego and egocentric desires, the existing residual vasanas get exhausted and no new vasanas are created. Secondly, a man of realization is 24/7 hooked on or logged on to a supercomputer with www. Work without worry. The law of karma do not bind him. The karma he performs is only a repayment of his earlier deeds. That is to be understood very clearly. A man of self-realization, if he is still having a gross body with him, he is doing those karmas sheerly because he had done some action in the past, and therefore those actions have to be, the reactions of those actions has to be fulfilled, has to be done. Therefore, the karma he performs is only a repayment of his earlier deeds. And that transaction of repayment closes once those vasanas are exhausted. And his action to exhaust such vasanas do not create any attachment or further vasanas in him, unlike in our cases. We come to this world with a bundle of vasanas, set and kg. And in the process of exhausting this vasanas one by one, we gather 10 kg of additional vasanas, because we fulfill the existing vasanas, we perform the existing vasanas with a tremendous amount of ego and egocentric desire. With the result, every vasana you try to exhaust, 10 more new vasanas are coming in. Hence our vasanas increase in geometric progression. That is not the case of a sincere seeker under today's discussion. So this much has to be very clearly understood. And let us see what Shruti continues for our tomorrow. Hari Om.